Welcome back to Doc's Hot Shop and Forge, and it's time to heat treat the small hammer that we've made for the Forging It Forwards Facebook group. Now this hammer weighs in now post grinding at 750 grams, so it's a little bit smaller than what we were aiming for. It's a shade under the 2 pounds mark, so it's about 1 3/4 pounds, but as it's for a beginner, it's a good weight that won't cause injury. So, now that we've completed the grinding, more on that later, let's get the forge lit so that we can do the heat treating. So that's now ready for the belt grinder. Most of the scales come off. This will be the rounding side, this will be the flat, and this is actually quite warm. Start by tightening up the metal. And we're pretty much ready to heat treat. Maybe. Yeah, we're ready to heat treat. 750 grams at this point. Now this is the scary bit. I'm quenching in water today. good sound. So that quench didn't go quite to plan, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually cracked off just along here. So just in this section here, as you can hear, the other face is sound. So we've got two options. We can cut off this face and replace it. So what we're going to do is, seeing as we've got two options, we can either A, make a new one, or B, weld a new face on. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this face. So we're just going to pry it off. Shouldn't be too difficult. We'll make up a new faceplate. Now this is a water hardening medium carbon antique spring steel. So to get the best out of this, I do need to water quench, which sets up the risk of quite a deal of shock for this, which is what happened here. Option 2, and this is something I'm also going to follow along with, is to make up another roll and start up another hammer. So we're going to be following both paths at this point. I suspect that we'll get a fairly good weld quite easily, because this surface is now going to be clean, and it's just a matter of making up a new faceplate, welding it on, re-annealing, and going from there. So let's get the forge lit and let's get underway. So as you can see, there wasn't much actually left holding it on. It cracked right through, leaving just a couple of little bits here and there. So came off quite easily. So let's make up a new piece, and as you can see, it's quite smooth, it is quite clean, so we'll make up a new piece and then we'll get that welded on. So we've got it roughly to size. I'm just trying to dome it a little bit on the outside. So that we end up with a flat surface on the inside to mate with the slightly domed. Reasonably flat. What are we doing for size? Okay, so it's a bit that way, it's good, so we need to set a little bit after that. Yeah, that's welding heat. No, I hit too hard. See if we can get some anhydrous borax to flow in there. Still just warm enough that we could stick it back together. wish it wasn't at the, it's got an I stage of hammer making. Alright, you're beginning to get an idea of how much you lose the scale when working with wrought iron. But that is, for the moment, welded. Okay, so at this point I'm going to start working the edges so that I can start finishing out and blending in that weld line. The better I can do that, the less likely it is to crack at that point when quenched. Let's have a look. I'm not happy with that. Okay, I'm seeing a slight disjuncture in the heat distribution, so I'm not 100% certain. So we'll do one more welding heat and try and get the middle well and truly set, and then we'll see how we go. The other problem is I was moving it around a lot and it was contacting cold metal a lot, so whether or not that was causing the face to cool off a little bit faster than the body, we'll see. This is more about seeing how it cools, see if it cools uniformly. You know what? I think we might actually have done it this time. It's pretty damn uniform. Alright. Okay, so it's once again back in the annealing bucket, and we will check on that in the morning. The welds look a lot better. there's a lot more uniformity to the heat transmission throughout the piece. They've put up with a fair bit more abuse than the last lot. I've just spent a lot more time tidying up the weld seam and so on to blend them in as much as possible. In so doing, I actually stress the weld by forcing metal essentially down into a crack so it acts a bit like a wedge, and if it hasn't pulled it apart, it's unlikely to. And that last heat where I took it up to welding heat and then gave the whole thing just a light panishing should relieve any strain that was put in there by doing so. So now we wait for it to come out of the annealing bucket. The straight face forging side is now a lot thinner than I would have honestly liked. It's still a functional hammer. Being backed by wrought iron, it's going to be quite good at absorbing shock. So a lot better than if it were mild steel. Wrought iron has more give to it. So I will heat treat this a little bit softer than I would otherwise normally have done. For two reasons. One, the faceplate has gotten a lot thinner, and two, it's a beginner's hammer, so I prefer it to be softer than the anvil face than the other way around, so that the hammer dents as opposed to putting divots into your anvil face. So we'll catch up after the heat treat and fitting the handle. The handle's part fitted. It's going to have to need a little bit of tidying up, seeing as I had to redo the eye a bit. Look out for that in the next video, and unfortunately this has turned into a 4-parter instead of the 3-parter. I was planning on having some sort of entry details ready for this episode, but unfortunately it'll have to be the next one. So if you've enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up. Feel free to share on social media, and if you haven't already subscribed, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. When you do, don't forget, ring the notification bell. So get out to your shop, have some fun, learn a skill, practice your welding, practice your hammer control. So stay safe, and I'll catch you for the next one.